सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयम् करुणालयम् नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करम् लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः।
Thank you. So, welcoming everyone back to the class. Continuing from yesterday, we are beginning to recognize that Karpanya dosh is a kind of a state of a mental helplessness, a feeling of lostness, a feeling of directionlessness, darkness, temporary, even if it is, coupled with maybe rejection, depression, despair, anxiousness, fear, attachments, exaggeration of the outcomes. There are many ways in which the mind can pitch up its own incapacity. There is a certain limit and a capacity to each one's Viveka Shakti, thinking capacity. Shastra's advice to human being is gain the knowledge, gain the values, knowledge of values, gain the knowledge itself of what is the truth. It is not that it is not known to human beings. The truth is already a discoverable process. It's discoverable. It is not that we are in the galaxy lost. According to Vedic Shastra, the truth has been discovered. And that truth is given as your own inner nature, and there is a whole teaching behind it to establish it. It is not an outcome of mere speculation, hypothesis, or to just keep people entertained, or just to keep people engaged in some right action so that they don't slip into wrong actions. It is not just to tame a human mind. Purpose of Shastra is not to just leave the minds as tamed. The idea is there is a truth. It has been discovered. It has been stated. It is available for everyone to know. my only example that I feel can convey well, that I know well enough, gravity has already been discovered. It is there for people to understand and know. If you do not know about gravity, it will not make it inoperable to you. It will still continue to operate whether you know about gravity or you don't know about gravity. Similarly, the truth has already been stated. It's already discovered by a human mind. It's already known now. The method has already been also explored and revealed to the people through education, through knowledge that the Vedas give us. It is already there now for whoever wants to know it. Idea is gain that knowledge and direct your life accordingly, because truth cannot be negated. That's the definition of truth. Trikala Trishtati, as we saw in the Tattvabodh also. Truth by definition is that Trikala Tishtati. It will remain in three kal. Tino kalon mein rahega. What are the three kal? Past, present, future. Changeless it will remain. It is always there. Now, if you as a person who finds yourself as an embodied being with a body and a mind, senses, wants, desires, opinions, and all sorts of feelings, if you wake up in the morning, you sleep, this life that is there, how best is it to be conducted? As close as you can follow the values which lead you to truth, so much more quality of life and enjoyments you will have in life. The peace, the joy, the relaxation, inner leisure, inner joy. How much closer can you adopt the values that take you to the truth? How close you can make your life aligned to those values that take you to truth. Having known them, you'll have to know what it is. Because swabhavik drishti, for every human being, when a child is born and when an when a human child is born and an animal's child is born, they show the same instincts. Swabhavik gyan can only be as much as where will I get my food from, and I cry if I need food or water, and I cry if I'm uncomfortable. I feel if I'm comfortable, I am joyful, I'm happy. If I feel a lack, I again am restless. Swabhavik gyan itna hi rahega. You can expand on this swabhavik gyan, but swabhavik gyan, jo by default that will be available to us, will only be that much which pertains to the sustenance of this body. Our impulses will generate us into actions. Instincts will propel us into actions that will help us to sustain this body. But Vedic view is extremely subtle. So, extremely subtle is perception. It is subtle in the sense that as you grow older, the human child, has a capacity to know in depth whatever topic it chooses. It can explore. The topic of its interest, it can explore. If a human mind got interested in space, we explored space. Today I read a news, Japan is planning a bullet train between Mars and Moon or something like that. Mars and Moon. There is a curiosity to know what is there out in the world. We will go to planet after planet, and then we'll wonder if there is alien. Why? How is the knowledge gathered? Few decades ago, before man walked on moon the first time, moon was available for poetry. Only the poets conceived moon, and they brought out beautiful poetry. But once man landed on moon, it lost a little luster. The poet can only give up to a point poetry, because now it's no longer that unknown realm completely. The idea is, what I'm trying to say now is, human interest, where its interest is, it will direct the seeking of that respective knowledge. This is there for every life, but for a human being, it gets accentuated because the faculty is there. That direction, Shastra says, if you are not aware of the truth can be known. When I saw the moon, I got to know maybe I can land on the moon. For me to say I can land on the moon, moon was a known object. Known means perceived. I can land on the moon. But do I know what is the truth? If I don't know what is the truth, I cannot direct my interest towards it. So my interest will get bifurcated. It will get spread. It will get externalized into whatever senses capture it. Am I so far connecting? Yeah. So my interest will go outside. My interest will capture what I see outside. Shastra says that there is a truth which can be known. If this gets understood as in at least acknowledged that it is there, known, knowable, then there is a possibility that you will direct your life towards that knowledge, seeking of that knowledge. That is the example parallel between moon and Atma Vidya. That truth, Shastra states. Veda's view is only one. Entire Vedic knowledge, the whole bundle of Vedic knowledge, has only two things in it. Stating the truth and stating how to get to know the truth from where we are, how we are. सत्य क्या है और सत्य जानने का माध्यम क्या है, मीन्स क्या है, सत्य को कैसे जाना जा सकता है, उसका भी ज्ञान. So what is the truth? Knowledge of that. And how to know the truth? That knowledge is also given. So that when the values are understood and known, there is a very high possibility that it will attract human interest. Because the knowledge says that truth is not an external thing to be discovered. That truth lies in your cognition, in you. वो बाहर ढूंढने से नहीं मिलेगा. The external search is not going to become conclusive. Ever. Your external quest of knowledge is never going to conclude. If you reach the 9th planet, there will be more galaxies you will want to reach. If you go under the ground, in the ocean, there will be more things to explore. So the build-up of knowledge will go on expanding. You can go on accumulating knowledge, but it will not be concluded, ever. Conclusion is in truth. Once the truth is known, the seeking concludes. That truth cannot be known outside. That truth is known inside, within you. You are the truth. You are that Satyam. Once this is even heard, जब तक सुना ही नहीं है, पता ही नहीं है, सोच भी नहीं सकते, because our senses are not going to reveal. As I have been saying, as a child you will only know, even when you grow up, how to feed your body, how to protect your sharir, how to keep it healthy, how to keep it disease free. Your knowledge will be centered around that. That is what we have accumulated, all objects around us. Which object around us is truly helping us to know our own self? That I know myself as so and so is taken for granted. I am this person and I am these desires and I am this, etc. ये तो unquestioning है. Truth lies at the root of that knowledge. Who am I? I am this name and form. I am this jivatvam. I am this person. Shastra says one step behind, internal. The root of this is the truth. Janne wala is the satyam. That's the truth. That is what is changelessly there. Once one has heard this in life, even if it's not understood, automatically there is some self-corrections that happen. But the more one moves towards inner quest, inner conquer, I would say, conquering that inner self. Conquering is in the sense of vijay prapt karna. किस चीज पे विजय प्राप्त करना? This sense of I-ness जिसका जड़ is the truth, उसको जानने का, you've been able to hold it, you've been able to figure it out, how to get to the truth of your being, how to know the truth of your being. That more one starts to align one's life, one's choices towards what makes one yogya of that truth. That much in Shastra Drishti, Samskrita you have become, that much refined, that much sophisticated, that much inner maturity you have gained. So what is immaturity from Shastra Drishti? Acting on impulses, raga, dvesha, personality affirmation, egoism. This is immaturity according to Shastra. You can spend your whole life sticking to objects, sticking to things, sticking to people. All this जो स्वाभाविक होता है ना, उसी में जीना. We will think, "Arey, this is such a wonderful thing. I have gained so much success. I have gained so much money. I have 3 houses. I have such, expense, whatever. You think that's a definition of success. People think that's a definition of success. Shastra drishti is, this is your immaturity. You are still balaha. You are still a child. You're operating, even if you're 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old, doesn't matter. Your physical age is not important. Your mental age is the same as that of a child. What is maturity? That maturity comes by the thinking, development of that thinking, which is in alignment with the truth that moves towards it. Now, in that, when a jiva is holding himself strong and moving it, it doesn't mean that he'll never be shaken back. Arjuna is describing the shaken up individual, even on a pursuit where he's aligned his life with the higher values. Even he is shaking up. That karpanya dosha refers to that limit, that this internal quest that you've been able to conquer, and when the next padav, I would say, that little distant, which is still unknown to you, that will shake you up. Have I made this clear? So how much will it become clear? How much remains clear? As much as I have conquered it, I've established in it. But उसके ऊपर वाला जो भी होगा हल्का सा, ऊपर वाली दृष्टि जो होगी, the higher me, that little above me, my own higher, that takes me closer to my own being, truth of my being. With regard to that, I will have some doubts. I may get confused. And that is a possibility that my own swabhavik tendency will erupt at that time. So Arjuna is showing his developed, mature being, and at the same time, his limit of thinking according to his knowledge that he has already got and aligned himself with. According to his inner knowledge, now his knowledge has reached a limit. It is not helping him to understand what is Dharma in this context. He still is firm to follow Dharma. He is not become immature to say Dharma naam ki koi cheez hi nahi hai. All this is Bhagavad, and we have been we've been a victim of Dhritarashtra's children for so long, and Kauravas have harmed us. They have even attempted to take our life. They are atatais, So therefore, I will also not follow Dharma. Why should I follow Dharma? That's not the language he's using. For most of us, when we counter something like this against us, what do? Mostly, averagely, we also want to do the same thing that the other is doing. Arjun is holding on to his sense of Dharma even in this time. But his own thinking has reached the limit. His own available knowledge to him is not helping him to discern what is called Dharma in this situation. Therefore, that disturbance within, which has made him has collapsed him from within, that, he says, my swabhavaha, that I'm naturally aligned with, is now getting toppled. This karpanya dosha has robbed me away of my courage, my clarity, my convictions, my strength, my power. That is a beautiful line to be recognized. Beautiful as in, of course, the feeling is not beautiful, but knowledge is beautiful. Karpanya dosh is that which will test as if test. It's not really a test. It is just that some situations in life would push you to the corner of your own knowledge, and there you wonder, what is the right thing to do? What is it that will keep you peaceful till the end? What is that will help you towards your own inner being, discovering it? What direction should you be taking that will bring you closer to your own self? As we saw yesterday, according to the Upanishads, you are a kripanaha if without knowing the truth, you die. Shastra's drishti of a kripanaha is that. So, he says, now, dharma sammudha chetaha. With reference to dharma, my inner being is in conflict completely. I do not know what is the right thing to do. Tvam prichhami. I ask you. Yat shreyaha. What is that which is shreyas for me? What is that which is beneficial for me? What is that which is higher for me? That I ask. And so, he says, shishya teham. I am your shishya. He discovers himself to be a shishya. As I said yesterday, shishyatvam is, according to Shastra, again I'm saying, is actually the peak of your maturity. How much readiness there is to be a shishya? That means now you have a human being is fairly mature. Human mind, human being, human animal is now a mature animal, because being a shishya is, saying I am a shishya is easy, but being a shishya requires recognition of one's limitation of understanding, following, helplessness sometimes, and also recognizing that goal, that aspiration, the direction of that aspiration, and being able to discover a person who's representing that, and then finding a relation there. Shastra says this, please don't think I'm saying this. This is the commentators, teachers, acharyas, this is their perception. When Arjuna says shishya te aham, and he discovers shishyatvam, why was the Gurukula method so successful, I would say? Till it was broken, our education system has been broken. The original education system was correct to develop a human child. A human child has a process of development, and it's not all based on gratification. Bringing up of a human child, a human mind, from infant stage up to the point where their aham has got fully established, is a very beautiful, delicate process, and it involves certain corrective procedures. It involves correction of wherever the child, it's like, bringing your herd together. If your cattle is straying away, you have to use a little stick to keep them in track and bring them home. So the part of that bringing up of the child towards it, that is what the Gurukul would do. So when a child was sent to a Gurukul, the shishyatvam there meant making the child aware of what ought to be learnt and how is it to be learnt. The method of learning. There is a method in learning. Just because someone says it, I'm not going to be able to learn it. I will not absorb it. That is why in front of Krishna, all the others that were receiving the knowledge did not absorb it. Because what was missing? Shishya te aham was missing. The idea is, if a person finds in themselves the readiness to acknowledge that this is my limit, but I still need to know what is it that takes me to my higher. And as I'm saying in today's class, if that truth is my own inner self, I am not going to be able to discover it myself. I need the help, a proper, clear instruction of how to approach that truth. How does it take me there? That shishyatvam, Shastra says it's almost a law that if the shishya is ready, that's why yatra yatra yogeshwara, wherever there is the readiness to learn, wherever there is Arjuna, there is a Krishna. Wherever there is a readiness discovered in the similar form, I'm expanding this a little bit because it's very helpful now to understand how much Gita is going to come in our lives, is going to be how much of a shishya we have become to Krishna, to this knowledge, to this subject, to this text, to this Vedic view, Vedic vision. How much are we ready to learn? When he says, I am your shishya, he is completely in recognition that once he is given the information, that information may not necessarily be according to his own rational thinking. It can be any knowledge. But if he has accepted that his thinking has reached the limit and he's asking someone for that knowledge now, that will reveal to him what is the higher, what is that path that he should take. He is acknowledging the fact that along with shishyatvam, chadhi, to be instructed, to be protected from straying away into other directions, to be led towards that is also going to be a part of it. That he is going to be led towards whatever Krishna says. That means he will have to keep a level of that humility, you may call it, that अहंकार का समर्पण करना. अहंकार का समर्पण मतलब क्या है? It doesn't mean I have no thought, no opinion, nothing. In the Gita itself, Krishna will say the best student will be 4 qualities he will talk, and one of them will be prashnena. Vedic knowledge is the only knowledge where you have the freedom to question, to learn. As I said yesterday, learning in fact has started from question. There are no instructions given to anybody. It is when the desire to know arises, the transaction of knowledge starts. So, Shishyahate aham shadhimam tvam prapannam. He says, I am taking prapannam. I am taking refuge. I am allowing my Viveka Shakti, which is now not so operational at this point of time. I am allowing my antakaranam to be guided by the instructions you tell me on what is Shreyas in this situation. Once you tell me what is Shreyas, I will follow what is Shreyas. My idea is to follow the Shreyas. So, Shadhimam Tvam Prapannam. And as I said, interesting to note over here has been, and you can bring it into everyday life, why we say Gita is meant for everyone. So far, Arjuna has always called himself as, his identity has always been, anybody remembers what I have been saying in class here and now and then? What did he always refer to himself as?
Drona shishya.
Drona Shishya. See, all of us, Drona Shishya. His other teachers were Kripacharya. They were his gurus. Recognition at this point in Arjuna is the lack of knowledge that he has. This knowledge, all other gurus are not going to be able to fulfill. They don't have that knowledge. Drona is his guru for whom he has gone into conflict. कि मैं इनको कैसे मारूं? बट ये जो उसके मन में स्थिति है, इस स्थिति का निवारण द्रोण के पास नहीं है, कृपा के पास नहीं है, भीष्म के पास नहीं है, all the wise people, युधिष्ठिर के पास नहीं है. Everyone there, Arjuna has understood, and this is a very beautiful thing to understand. You may not hear it commonly. Now Arjuna has understood this problem that I'm facing inside, none of these people have a solution for. ये जो विषय है ना, इसका ज्ञान अभी तक किसी के पास, जितने भी गुरु हैं उसके, किसी के पास भी उसका ज्ञान नहीं है. And you see it through the Mahabharata. Even Drona suffered. In fact, his collapse happened because Ashwathama got killed. He heard. He was close to his own son, Ashwathama. He collapsed after that. His arms fell. Drona couldn't fight after that. The way to have conquered Drona was Yudhishthir had to speak a lie. Now don't raise another morality question here. We are not going to discuss that. That's not the topic. That's not the point. Sticking to the point here, the point is why we say Gita must be taught to everybody. Because the topic of Gita is something that is most essential to human being, and no teacher can give it to you of a particular subject. physics, chemistry, economics, etc., nuclear physics, space technology, biophysiology, name any hundreds of subjects now. You can have a master of each subject. They can only give you knowledge of that. But what about the halat that Arjun has? He's skillful. He's learned from Drona how to master his archery. He's learned from Shiva himself. He's got his own astra. All this is not helping. All that knowledge has become useless to him. That is Karpanya dosha. Am I making this connection understandable to everyone? There are people on YouTube. There are people here. Absolutely. Yes. That knowledge which will help rebalance my mind, redirect it, reshape me, that my own स्वभाव can assert itself again. At least मैं अपने स्वभाव में तो रहूं. यहाँ तो उसका स्वभाव भी उसको भूल गया. He's behaving opposite of what he normally has behaved. And we don't understand that human beings can do that. Thank you. Great. We don't understand this, that human beings can go through that. We think मेरा स्वभाव जो है ना, मैं तो ऐसे है, I'm like this only. This is the way I am. If I have made a lot of effort to become a good person, then my goodness should reap me fruits. People say that. There's a lot of argument that goes on. After all, I have done no harm to anybody. Why should I have gone through this suffering? मैंने तो किसी के साथ बुरा नहीं किया. I have not harmed anybody. I've made sure that I don't even hurt a fly. Then why am I suffering? Is God so partial? Look at that neighbor of mine. Hits his family member every second day and is so rich, is so comfortable, has so many friends, has so many followers, has so much. And the person is in dejection because suddenly you realize, one of the reasons why Shakespeare becomes so popular, because he was successfully able to tap into this human nature and its unpredictability. We take it for granted. Our nature we take for granted. But it is unpredictable. In that movie, Othello, the drama Othello, Desdemona Othello, I think it's that only. I have now lost too much. I don't think so. I remember, but whoever knows, probably it's that only. Othello really was fond of Desdemona. Till then, all positive emotion, kindness, love, etc., all that bookish thing. He was expressing all that. Then suspicion came. One thought of suspicion, jealousy came. Suddenly, it overpowered and Desdemona killed. That unpredictability, sudden turn of one's स्वभाव जो मेरा था, अब उससे कुछ contrary निकल रहा है as if. There's a whole lot of shastra behind this. Nothing can come from nowhere. They were all your hidden latent tendencies. That hidden latent tendencies which have been accumulated and which are actually maybe helpful in another survival mode. That's besides the point. But they can erupt at a wrong time and a wrong place, in front of a wrong person, in a wrong situation, or in a situation what erupts will be wrong and messes up your life and complicates it. So here he says, shishya te aham. The minute he says, I have become your shishya Krishna, it's not that he is disloyal to the other gurus now. Oh, Drona is no longer. Suddenly, his recognition कि इसका ज्ञान तो इनमें से किसी के पास नहीं है. and only Krishna can have. And first time in his 70 years. He must have had so many discussions. I revel in this imagination because it can only be imagination. There's no literature on it that you can prove it. But it's great joy to relax and revel in it. What conversations they must have had together. Before Arjuna said, shishya te aham. क्या बातें की होंगी इन लोगों ने? Suddenly he recognizes that he always knew Krishna was something else. Suddenly he realizes it's this wisdom that he can tap into. And it's not an ordinary thing to say, Tvam prapannam. I'm ready to follow. Shadhi, correct me. Wherever corrections required, correct me. Where am I going wrong? What am I doing wrong? Or how is it? It may not be wrong is an English term. What is not? What is it that I'm not following? Tvam prapannam, shishya te shadhi, tvam prapannam. So my most important point is discovering shishyatvam is actually a peak of maturity. That is why it is a rare thing. Most of us do not peak to that maturity. And some bhagyam. This is a very ironical equation in creation. Though wherever there is a shishya, there will be teaching there. It has to reach the person. How it reaches his plan, his methods. This is his, as in this is in the law itself. If you are, whatever you seek, that object will come to you. My favorite always used to be when physical classes used to be on. If you talk to, especially during Diwali time, and this is many years ago, now I have no clue, but Diwali time in North India, this whole used to be a whole lot of drinking and gambling that goes on in the name of Diwali. So it jerks you from inside. What a pious festival, but it's associated with full night gambling and partying and drinking. Now, the minute you say that this is not the way to celebrate. I've forgotten. Why was I bringing this example? What was I trying to convey? It's gone blank.
You were talking, whatever we see, that object comes.
Correct. Thank you. Yes. So now they would have a lot of discussion. This we had once. That's why. They'll have a discussion. This drink, that drink. Names. And my blank face. I don't even know. I have no clue. You may be in the same environment, but you have no idea of what are the names of all these things that they're talking about. What are these names that they're taking? What are you? Same environment. But if you ask them what is written in the Gita, what's Bhashyam, what's Tika? Blank face. They have a blank face. What are you seeking? That respective knowledge will reach you. They seek that. They have knowledge of that. That's the point I was making. They have knowledge of that. They have wonderful knowledge. They make you feel inferior because they think they have real knowledge, which is that quality wine, which is that quality drink, which is what. And if you don't know about it, then you are not the in thing. You're not part of us. It will seek you. Shishya te aham shadi mam tvam prapannam. When Arjuna says this to Krishna, look at the levels of recognition he has arrived at. While his mind has shaken up completely, he has a recognition that no one can give him an answer for this. He says also in the next verse, as we saw, my nahi prapashyami mamapanudyad. I'm not able to see what is going to give me relief from this shock. What is going to remove this shock? Hata kya dega? That even if I become the king of all this Rajyam, unrivaled, and even of Paralok, make me the king of gods also. The entire karma part, he's covered it. By doing the right thing, you will get drishta phalam, you get adrishta phalam. Adrishta phalam is heavens and etc. and in the future, happiness, etc. Drishta phalam is immediate, what a righteous person can get through following the righteous method is your drishta phalam and adrishta phalam. Arjun says, even if I get both of them, even then, he says, this will not remove my shok. The inner feeling of disturbance is a very mild word. Imbalance that I am now having. So he says, now having said this, Arjun finishes his monologue, I would say at this point. He's only talking from one side. Sanjay now concludes his monologue and he tells Dhritarashtra, Sanjaya uvacha eva muktva Hrishikesham Gudakeshah parantapaha Nayotsya iti govindam uktva tushnim babhuvaha. Sanjaya says, this parantapaha in some texts is only parantapa. When it is parantapa, then it's sambodhan and it refers to Arjuna. But if it is a visarga, then it is a sangya and it is calling, Sanjaya is calling Dhritarashtra as parantapa. So in this book, there is a visarga, but I think Gita Press text would not have visarga. Then it would mean Arjuna, and that seems a little more tangible. He says, Evam uktva, having concluded whatever he said, Arjuna, Rishikesham, to Rishikesh, to Krishna. Having concluded, he says, Gudakeshena, Arjuna, uktva, said. If you take it as Arjuna, he's a parantapaha. We've done the meaning before. He who's a scorcher of foes. He says to him, Na yotsya iti govindam. Yotsya is an interesting word. It's in a future sense. He says, I will not fight. Na yotsya iti. Iti means quote unquote declaration. A little while ago, there was a declaration of war when the conches were blowing. Now there is a declaration, na yotsya iti, in this manner, quoting Arjuna, he says, na yotsya govindam uktva tushnim babhuvaho. He says to Govinda, having said this, uktva tushnim, he became silent. He just withdrew. Not a word after that. He just fell silent. Arjuna's last words were, Na yotsya, Govinda. Oh Govinda, I am not fighting. I will not fight. Tushnim babhuvaha. He became babhuva. Now it's referring to how he fell. Silent. He became silent. Quite himself. Okay. All words clear. Evam uktva Hrishikesham Gudakeshaha parantapaha. If it is referring to Dhritarashtra, then the teachers would say it is kind of a reminder to Dhritarashtra, who has never fought a war. Dhritarashtra. So Arjun saying that he's a Parantapa, scorcher of foes, is correct. But to call Dhritarashtra scorcher of foes was absolutely like, telling him to, even now, if he wants to, he should do something about it. Or it's more like pulling, I don't know the exact English word for it. It's kind of telling him that you're the king in a way, but what have you done? So in this way he says, and then in the 10th verse he says, Tamuvacha ऋषिकेशः प्रहसन्निव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः तं उवाच ऋषिकेशः प्रहसन्. Even if you don't know Sanskrit, can you figure out the word? Prahasan. Don't read the translation. Prahasan iva Bharata. Bharata is again referring to Dhritarashtra, calling him the king of Bharat. You are.
Prasann meant happy.
Khushi.
Prahasan.
Prahasan. We'll see. So, Tam uvacha Rishikeshaha. To him, who was now silent. Now he's gone silent. I will not fight. Zid. It's almost like, you declare, I will not fight. To him, mocking is the word. That's right. That's the word I was looking for. He was mocking him. In the previous verse, when he calls him Parantapaha, it's like a mocking tone. He's mocking him. So, Tamuvacha Rishike Prahasan iva Bharata. He says, Rishikeshaha says these words to him, smiling as if, Prahasan. He had a smile on his face. Who had a smile? Krishna had a smile on his face. And what was Arjuna's halat? He's got tears in his eyes. He's collapsed. And what is Krishna doing there? He's standing, hearing him, and then he's smiling Eva. That, Krishna is known for his Teda smile. Teda smile means one side smile. Half the smile. So, all imagination obviously, but Prahasan Iva. He had a smile on his face. So he had a smile on his face. Tenayo ubhayoho madhye vishidantam idam vachaha. Who was Senayo ubhayo madhye vishidantam? Completely collapsed by Vishad. Between the two armies, Krishna, smilingly looking at Arjuna now, said the following words, which is going to come in the next verse. So here, if you look at the 9th verse, in the 9th verse, Na yotse iti govindam, if anybody can connect. And in the previous verse, he has says, Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. You see the contradiction? On one hand, he says, I am your shishya, instruct me. As you'll instruct me, I will do. Abhita Krishna has not even opened his mouth. He's only smiled. And before that also, he says, Na yotsyami. I'm not going to fight. So on one hand, he's saying, give me the instruction. On the other hand, he's already concluded and asserting, I will not fight. How that state of mind is, what is that looking like contradiction? But it's not a contradiction. This is representing a clear person who has arrived at a conclusion of his limited understanding At that point, he is revealing to his own, here in this context, Krishna, his guru, this is my understanding now. मेरी सोच में अभी तक जो मैं सोच पा रहा हूं, my discernment tells me I should not fight, I will not fight. If you will leave it to me, if you do not give me instruction and you tell me now yatha ichchasi tatha kuru, before giving me the 18 chapters, at the end it was okay, you said yatha ichchasi tatha kuru. If you tell me now yatha ichchasi tatha kuru, for those who don't know, yatha ichchasi tatha kuru means do as you wish. यथा इच्छसी, जैसी आपकी इच्छा है वैसा करो, तथा कुरु, कुरु मीन्स करो, जैसी आपकी मर्जी है वैसा करो. So he, after 18 chapters, when the Arjuna says nashto moha smritin labdva, then he says my smriti has come back, and that's it. Before that he says Krishna had said, I have said what I had to say, I have given my knowledge to you, now yatha ichchasi, you make your decision what you want to do. And this is Guru and Shishya. Nowhere Guru imposes on the Shishya. Nowhere in the Shastra a paramparik, proper traditional way of learning is a Shishya is made capable. He is a potential. He is the one who bears the torch for the future. Therefore, there is nothing like in common parlance, people think, oh, you have to remain a humble person. All that is all misguided interpolations. The effort of the Guru is to make Arjuna independently capable of arriving at the decision of what is Shreyas for him based on facts which have to do with what will evolve him in that sense. What is better for him that will bring him to the purpose of his human life. Based on that, he can take his own decision. Whatever he thinks is right for him, it's all acceptable. So he says, when he says, I will not fight, here it's a very important distinction to be understood. He's given his best understanding and put it in front of Krishna. My capacity of thinking has made me come to this decision. I think that is it. And if you are going to tell me, yatha ichchasi tatha kuru, I will not fight. Whatever be the consequences, because I cannot think any further. The consequences I think I have already spoken of in first chapter. I see it from that drishti now. No longer is it important to me that this is dharmic war or adharmic war. I only see this as a graveyard of lakhs of people. 11 plus 7 akshaunis. Each akshauni had a minimum of, forgotten the exact number, but I think it's close to a lakh or something. Lakhs of people are going to be here. It's a mass grave. I'm not going to enter this. This is pure. He is not a student seeking Atma Vidya. He is seeking Dharma. And Dharma means he understands the relation of karma and phal. उसके हर कर्म का फल उसको भोगना है. He understands this very, very deeply. As I said, he's a student who's matured himself, understands the repercussions of his actions, and is watchful before he acts. Discerns before he acts. So he is already in that cognition that he says, my thinking tells me I will not fight, but Chadhi mam tvam prapannam. And because now our Krishna knows, Arjuna, when he says this, Krishna knows now how to address it. He's smiling because to him this is no big an issue. Let's put it this way. It's like when a child is crying because they've lost a toy. Or another child they're playing with, that child breaks the toy. Child is weeping, crying. What is the parent's attitude? No big deal. So when he's smiling, what is that Krishna's attitude? This is not a big deal, Arjuna. This is easy to resolve. It's not so huge. You don't have to collapse like this. It's not a difficult situation as it looks to you. It is resolvable through proper understanding. Proper understanding is actually the only resolution of any situation. Gaining the right understanding of that situation resolves the situation. How long a situation remains complicated, complex, and confusing, etc., as long as it's not resolved. How do you resolve it? In understanding first, and then whatever action is required. That is how Gita proceeds with it. So, with this, as I said, we are going to take Krishna Vacha is a special moment which comes in the next verse. I will just say it for its own sake, but it deserves a separate class. But before that, there is some more ground to be covered. What Bhashyakara writes is a huge, here. This is a moment which is worth blowing a conch. I'm just going to repeat it. We are not going to take the verse. Sri Bhagavanuvacha. And that's a special moment. In tradition, for a student of Shastra who seeks the Shastric knowledge, the minute you hear Sri Bhagavanuvacha, this is like showering of Anugraha. This is a special moment that opens in our life. He says, Ashocyananvashocastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasuna gatasuncha nanushocanti panditaha. That's it. He says, Ashocya, you are grieving for all those. Your grief is not called for. You talk as if you're a very wise person, but there is no wisdom in what you talk. For the wise, truly wise, do not grieve. For what? Those who are gone means are dead, or those who are dying. The details, of course, we'll do later. That's how Krishna gives him the first blow, which is almost seeming unrelated to what he was saying. What has he said presented? He's presented, give me knowledge of what is my Dharma. And what is the answer? Starts the first blow Krishna gives to him. He says, Ashocyanan, what you're talking, appearing as if you are talking wise. The first lakshana of a wise person is he understands the basic nature of life. What is the nature of life? What is life? Life is that expression of breath between birth and death. That is your life. What is the fact of that life? What is the fact of this breathing? What is the fact regarding the breath?
It's temporary.
The fact of this breath is it can end anytime. It's not forever. Breathing can stop. The second fact is it's uncertain when it will stop. But it is certain it is going to end. So there is only those whose breathing has ended, or those who are in the process whose breathing is dying, is ending. Har kaal, beetta, is bringing us closer to the final moment. The wise person clearly has in perception the temporary nature of this expression of life, so-called life, that he calls as if it is going to remain forever. It's a short spurt of self-awareness, and death will seize it at some point. But all the unfoldment later. So with this, I'm ending the class for now here. There are questions. Yesterday, yes, there was a question that came up as a follow-up question. If there is fearlessness still there with reference to, I made a comment to say that when you're righteous, as a byproduct, I made a comment, one of the things that you have will also be that there's a fearlessness. So the question is, if fearlessness is not there, does that mean that somewhere you have followed adharma? The fearless not being there means fear is there. Fear is the karan of fear, Shastra says, is only one, and that is avidya. As long as avidya is there, fear is there. Fear will express in different forms and different ways. So even if you do not have fear, if you conquer fear at one area, if there is avidya, fear will express in something else. So when I said that a righteous person becomes fearless, is because he comes closer to his own self. He's that much closer. So he's closer to identifying the cause as avidya, and coming closer to it gives him an inner strength. And that is the cause of fearlessness. Not that you are adharma. That adharma, whoever follows, is Duryodhan, that kind of agitation and fear if there is adharma. So which one it would be is each person's discernment. But fearlessness can only come to a righteous person. Nobody else can have fearlessness. Other fearlessness after righteous person is a jnani. He, of course, will have absolute fearlessness. So what is the cause to be having fear? Fear comes from the sense of perceiving a threat in any form. That gives fear, threat of feeling a sense of loss, feeling a sense of abandonment, any kind of an internal sense of threat will bring fear. So fear cause will remain avidya, and however much we relate to it or don't relate to it, as long as avidya is there, fear will have different expressions. That's it. And those expressions attachments are also the same expressions. All these psychological are all expressions of the same thing. Okay, so that is another question. And there is... Yes, absolutely. Being Drona Shishya would be equivalent to chasing the externalities of the world, in the world, absolutely, to turn and grow inward, take refuge in Krishna's. Absolutely. Every jiva is facing, absolutely, yes. So, yes, so with this, we are going to stop here and we'll do some chanting practice. As I said, if there's any other question, you can take it up now. We can take it up now. If anybody has a question regarding so far what we have done. Because now we are going to go back to the introduction of Gita. We'll have to put a pause here in the thought flow, because Shankara's introduction to Gita is one of the very important introductory bhashyams. Brahma Sutra Bhashyam, Adhyasa Bhashyam, Radharanyaka Bhashyam, Gita Bhashyam are considered to be very important. And the third bhashyam, fourth bhashyam that's very important will come in the 13th chapter. That these four bhashyams means commentary, commentary is a wrong translation actually, that Shankara has given are considered to be very valuable for knowledge. They give you a different insight. Even before the Gita starts, his bhashyam will give a different insight. The first paragraph itself is amazing. So this we'll do in the next class. It's called Upodghataha it should be. Upodghataha. Very beginning of the book. It is before the first chapter also starts. This is invocation also by Shankara. And then this particular paragraph, we won't do all of them. I'll highlight what is important points here, which will help make the connection. And you will then slowly start recognizing it as how deeply seated are these dharmic values to lead the sustenance of life, and why when we say Hinduism is actually the womb of all cultures in the world, and Hinduism is not really Hinduism. This knowledge is the womb of all cultures in the world, whether someone recognizes or not. How is it a womb? You get to see through this paragraph. So we'll take that up next time. Any question? If not, then we'll do the chanting.
One question, Deepti
ji.
Second verse was also Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, but you said we blow conches here. So what was the reason?
Because in that second verse, he's not really giving knowledge. He's addressing Arjuna. It's more Arjun specific, or Arjun Avastha in us. So it's more like directly shaking that state. But now onwards, it's going to be knowledge. Addressing the cause. So that's why Shankara writes the commentary from just before this verse, 11th verse. So first chapter in 10 verses, Shankara doesn't write a commentary of the verses. He writes the beginning commentary. But these are not really relevant so much. Is it clear that Arjuna has grown over a period of time from external to internal? No, Arjuna, that is more relevant for all of us to say if Arjuna has grown from external to internal, may be a little out of context over here. He's ripened as a shishya because of his own situation and his own value structure that has helped him ripen it. He's followed his value structures, and at the right time, it ripened because he understood that no longer any of his knowledge or any of the people around him can support it. That's what arose the shishyatva. Is that okay? Anybody else had a question?
One more question. So earlier you had mentioned it does in Mahabharata it said Shri Krishna Uvacha, and now it says Shri Bhagwan Uvacha in Bhagavad Gita.
I said Shri Krishna Uvacha?
When we were reading text from Mahabharata.
Okay. There it was Shri Krishna Uvacha, right?
Yeah.
Correct, absolutely. Because that was also not the portion of Atma Vidya. Why Gita has been picked out, and the name, the teacher of this is Narayan himself. That's what Shankara is going to establish here. How Krishna is now Bhagwan. Who is giving this knowledge? So here the Krishna is not as Mr. Krishna anymore. The giver of knowledge has to be the Purnam. When he is identified with that Purna Vidya, the complete knowledge, he is able to now direct it. So there it's a conversation Arjuna and Krishna. But now throughout the Gita it will be Shri Bhagwan Uvacha. The truth can only come from one mouth, one source. That's it.
So the definition of Bhagwan that we did here is the same as the Ishvara we did in Tattvabodh.
Yes. They are different names. Bhagwan becomes a little more sagunam. Ishvara is more at the causal level, Hiranyagarbha.
So when we say Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, they would come after Bhagwan because Bhagwan is just one.
Bhagwan can be Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh.
Okay.
So by definition of Bhagwan, whoever has these 6 bhagas in full potential is a Bhagwan.
Right. But Ishwar is just one.
Ishwar is the...
Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh cannot be called
where
Ishwar.
do they get their power from to perform this? Ishvara. Where does Ishwar get the power? Brahman. Manifestation.
Brahman.
Yes. Is there any other question? Siddharth, you had a question? So we'll do the chanting of the second
Please.
chapter. Anji?
I wanted to ask if I can do the chanting today.
Sure. Okay. Yes. What's supposed to do otherwise?
Sanka.
Will you be able to do on your own, Siddharth, or you want to be led?
I've only prepared the first 4 verses,
Okay.
but I wouldn't mind to be like led.
So I think Priyanka, if you can
Yeah.
do the first 4 first, first 4 to lead him.
Yeah. ॐ श्रीकृष्णाय परमात्मने नमः
ॐ श्रीकृष्णाय परमात्मने नमः।
अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः
अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः
साङ्ख्ययोगः
साङ्ख्ययोगः।
सञ्जय उवाच
सञ्जय उवाच
तन्तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम्
तन्तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम्
विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः
विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः।
सञ्जय उवाच
Sorry.
I'll do the whole verse together. सञ्जय उवाच तन्तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम् विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः
सञ्जय उवाच तन्तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम् विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः।
श्रीभगवानुवाच
श्रीभगवानुवाच
कुतस्त्वाकश्मलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम्
कुतस्त्वाकशमलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम्
अनार्यजुष्टमस्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिकरमर्जुन
अनार्यजुष्टमस्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिकरमर्जुन।
श्रीभगवानुवाच कुतस्त्वाकश्मलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम् अनार्यजुष्टमस्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिकरमर्जुन।
श्रीभगवानुवाच कुतस्त्वाकशमलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम् अनार्यजुष्टमस्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिकरमर्जुन।
क्लेब्यं मा स्म गमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते।
क्लैब्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते।
क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप।
क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप।
क्लैब्यं मा स्म गमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते। क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप।
क्लैब्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते। क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप।
अर्जुन उवाच
अर्जुन उवाच
कथं भीष्ममहं सङ्ख्ये द्रोणं च मधुसूदन।
कथं भीष्ममहं सङ्ख्ये द्रोणं च मधुसूदन।
इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि पूजार्हावरिसूदन।
इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि पूजार्हावरिसूदन।
अर्जुन उवाच कथं भीष्ममहं सङ्ख्ये द्रोणं च मधुसूदन। इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि पूजार्हावरिसूदन।
अर्जुन उवाच कथं भीष्ममहं सङ्ख्ये द्रोणं च मधुसूदन। इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि पूजार्हावरिसूदन।
Very good. So that's two places. Can you do the first line of second verse again? Kutastva kashmalamidam.
कुतस्त्वाकश्मलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम्।
Correct. Now it's okay. I think last time. And second thing is, at the end of all these words, like Madhusudana, it's a short there is a tendency to prolong that you have. So you are doing Madhusudana. It goes a little long, but it is Madhusudana. Yeah. Otherwise, very good. So 5 to 7. Aditi, would you like to try? No? Okay. Anybody else? You want to try, Siddharth?
He's on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I can try. I don't know the pitch of the fifth verse, but I can try.
So Priyanka, you can?
गुरुन् हत्वा हि महानुभावान्
गुरुन् हत्वा हि महानुभावान्
श्रेयो भोक्तुं भैक्ष्यमपीह लोके
हेयो भोक्तुं भैक्ष्यमपीह लोके
हत्वार्थकामांस्तु गुरूनिहैव
हत्वार्थकामांस्तु गुरुनिहैव
भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिरप्रदिग्धान्
भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिरप्रदिग्धान्
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 गुरून् हत्वा हि महानुभावान् श्रेयो भोक्तुम् भैक्ष्यमपीह लोके हत्वार्थकामांस्तु गुरून् भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिरप्रदिग्धान्।
गुरुन् हत्वा हि महानुभावान् श्रेयो भोक्तुं भैक्ष्यमपीह लोके हत्वार्थकामांस्तु गुरुनहैव भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिरप्रदिग्धान्।
न चैतद्विद्मः कतरन्नो गरीयः
न चैतद्विद्ध कतरन्नो गरीयो
It's a dvidma. It's there. It's a half the and ma. So, na chaitadvidma
न चैतद्विद्मा कतरन्नो गरीयः
yadva jayem yadi vano jayeyuh
यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयुः
यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषामः
यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषाम
तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः
ते अवस्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः
न चैतद्विद्मा कतरन्नो गरीयः यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयुः यानेव हत्वा निजिजीविषामः तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः।
न चैतद्विद्मा कतरन्नो गरीयः यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयुः यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषाम तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः।
Okay. न चैतद्विद्मः, that visarga is a half, and gariyaha visarga there. Jayeyuhu, to both of you. Both of you are not chanting the visarga. Jayeyuhu, visarga is to be sounded. And then Jijivishamaha, Siddharth. So there has to be a visarga there. Then that Teva Sthitah Pramukhe. Making a change.
I wanted to ask, why is this sa not pronounced?
Sa is because of the sandhi. The visarga followed by ta, as it's actually in over here they have broken as a hyphen, but it's in the sandhi. So when you're chanting it, you're breaking it back into its original word. Because you're breaking it. If we were not breaking it, then we would have said Yaneva Hatvana Jijivishamaste Vastita from. You run out of breath. I mean, so normally tendency would be to break it, and if you're breaking it, then you have to pronounce the word.
Okay.
7th verse.
This one again.
Okay, yeah.
न चैतद्विद्मः कतरन्नो गरीयः यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयुः यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषामः तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः।
न चैतद्विद्मः कतरन्नो गरीयः यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयुः यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषामः तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः।
कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः
कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः
वहतः स्वभावः
वहतः स्वभावः
पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः
पृच्छामि त्वामधर्मसम्मूढः चेताः
यच्छ्रेयस्यानिश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे
यच्छ्रेयः स्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे
स्यानिश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे
स्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे
शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्
शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्
कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयस्यानिश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्
कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयः स्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्
Good. Very good, both of you. Keep it up. 10 verses. Verse 10.
Yes,
Next
it is.
Sunday. Next
Okay.
time, 10 verses we'll do Sunday evening. Last, like this today. Okay? 15 minutes, 10 minutes. So till then, you can practice 10 verses together. Okay? Do you want to conclude today? Who started the chanting?
I did it. Both of us did. ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Very good. So we'll see you
Thank you.
next week.